Oh my God, guys and girls. There's a girl right there. Yeah. Oh, is that right? Let me tell you about ukuleles. No, honest to God, this is a real good deal. I'm on my way next Sunday to Tasmania. This guy shot this email over the bow. He said, Mr. Good, I don't know if this will reach you or not. But he said, I'm hoping it will. And he said, look, I was a drummer since I've been 3 years old. I'm going, okay, here we go. It's going to be one of those. He says, no. He says, I'm a drummer since 3, and my father is a professional drummer all my life. But our family business is we run a wood mill, lumber and veneer, in Tasmania, in Burnie. Now, I don't know what the hell Burnie is, you know, and so I said, you got me, you know, you already got me. So he says, what we're cutting right now is Tasmanian Blackheart sassafras. And what this is some of the most gorgeous wood. They just basically cater to all the woods that are produced in Tasmania. So anyway, I said, you know, I'd love. He said, can I send you some pictures? I said, please do. So he sends me these pictures of this wood. It's going to blow your mind. And he says, well, what about making a shell out of this? I said, well, the inside should be Tasmanian blackwood. And blackwood, by the way, is the cousin, young lady, to koa. And koa is what they make ukuleles and guitars out of. So I'm going down there next Sunday, and it's going to be a blast. I mean, so we stop in Melbourne, and I thought, you know, my wife Esther and I, she's around here somewhere. There she is back there. We don't take vacations. We're not vacationers. And I wish I was, but I don't know how to do it. Because everywhere I go, I travel a lot, is always for business. So I said, okay, I've got a dear friend. That's a little bright. Last time I was there, yeah, I mean, I have an office in Oxnard. It's just like that. Anyway, the last time that I was there I was working with Men at Work. Remember that band? And it was in 1985, and I befriended this guy named Bill Mackin, who has become one of my very best friends in the world. And this guy comes to NAMM show. You know about the NAMM show? He comes up every year. He stays at our house, and now his wife, Chris, stays with us. And his son, Liam, they're like part of our family. So I said, look, we're going to come, and we'll spend 5 days with you. I know I have been, you know, out of the picture for a long time, but we'll come down there, and we'll just spend this time together. What does he do? He's a great guy, great friend. He books this gigantic theater and all these hot Australian drummers. And unfortunately, I can't remember all their names, but I know they're hot as hell because there's a lot of talent there. And they're letting the public in. It's going to be one of those big deals, right? So there goes that sleeping in story I wanted to tell you. But he's going to go with us after we get that gig out of the way to Tasmania, and I'm going to be in the jungle in I can't wait. I can't wait. And when you see these drums, and mark my word, we're going to be here, and I hope we're right here a year from now, and I've got one of those drum kits with me. You know, we go on these adventures, and my wife Esther is going to photograph the whole thing. So we all get to enjoy, you know, my pot belly and, you know, just all the weird hair days and stuff like that. But it's cold down there right now. It's snowing, and it's just weird, but it's just gonna, I mean, I can't wait because we've had nothing but heat here, and, you know, the only problem is I had a little back surgery a week ago, and so that's the only thing, and I apologize, I'd be standing right now, but I gotta sit, if that's okay with everybody? All right, and I appreciate that. But it's gonna be a long 15-hour flight. We're gonna get in there, it's gonna be fun, it'll be great. The last adventure that Esther and I took, just the very last one, was this deal where we were kind of summoned by do you know who Harman Kardon is? The speaker company? They make very high-end speakers. I mean, a box this big is like 90 grand. My ears don't hear 90 grand, but some people's, maybe Donald Trump's does. Anyway, so they came out and they wanted to share in some of the exotic woods that I get. And through the years, with the help of my wife and some of the people that I've gotten to know, we really have enjoyed buying and researching exotic woods. So they said, you know what, you really should know this person, Lauren Carpenter. I said, why Lauren Carpenter? She says, well, you've got a love for a thing called spruce. And when I was a kid, did anybody ever throw a tennis ball against the garage door? Right? I did it, man, for hours. I was kind of like a loner, throwing that ball, but it made this doom, and this is in 1967. So I was going doom, and I'll never forget. That's the tone, doom, and all of a sudden, this brand new Ford LTD rolls up the driveway, and this briefcase comes out, wingtip shoes, black mortuary outfit. It's my dad coming from work. And he said, do you know how much this car costs? And I said, no, Dad. How much? And he said, $4,000. And I went, my hair went on fire. And I was like, geez, that's more money than I could ever imagine. Well, he says, you know what one of those new garage doors would cost? You throw that ball against her one more time, I'm going to bust your ass in half. So I went, I get it. But I never forgot that sound, right? So all these years later, they're telling me I should meet Lauren Carpenter because I have this affinity for spruce. And those garage doors, by the way, were all spruce because petite ladies, there were no electric garage door openers back then. They had to lift them. And so they made them out of spruce, and that was that tone wood. It's the top of every acoustic guitar. You pick one out here. There's one right there. It's Sitka spruce. So I was telling this whole damn story to these guys, and they said, you got to meet this woman. So this woman, Lauren Carpenter, lo and behold, calls me, and she goes, you've got to do this thing, John. I've heard all about your company. They buy and sell and trade 18th century Stradivari violins. I didn't know how many. Do you know how many are left in the world? 625. And the cool thing is, this man, Antonio Stradivari, he went to incredible lengths to do what he did. And they said, and she said to me, she said, I'd love for you to take that to the percussion world somehow, if at all possible. I said, let me sleep on it. I didn't sleep that night. I come back the next morning and I'm just going, hell yeah. I mean, hell to the yeah. It's my 45th anniversary. 45 years I've been doing this. And I'm proud of that, and it's a great thing for me. Anyway, so I said, okay. She gave me the blessing. She said, the only thing I need you to do is to definitely go in the footsteps of Antonio Stradivari. I said, okay, what's it going to take? And she told me the path to take. So I call up this guy, Renzo Calastri. You'll never know Renzo Calastri, but you should know Renzo Calastri. I buy exotic woods from him in Milan, Italy. And he's been a very dear friend. He's a very religious guy. And he just embraces, he says, oh, Giovanni, this is, genioso, he was going into his Italian thing. He says, I'll come see you. I hang up the phone. 3 days later, this guy is sitting across from me in my office. So he just got on a plane. That's a friend. So he flies out and he goes, I had this little paper and I said, the outside of this thing has got to look like this. It's got to be quarter cut Croatian sycamore. It's got to be high figure. That's what I want. And the guy, and when you quarter cut a log, let's call it this way. Here's the log going like this. Well, when you slice it, the pieces aren't ever going to be that big. So I have to have, bless you, you've got to have like an inlay in the middle. So I said, the guys in Indiana, you've seen some of my icon work, I hope, and they do all of that inlay work for me. They're brilliant. So I said, we've just got to get that look on the outside. The rest of it, he says, no. Val di Fiamme is where we're going to go. He says, you be in Milano, November 1. And he put the law down. So I said to Esther, I said, make the arrangements, let's go. So lo and behold, but we always stop in Dearborn, Michigan. That's where I'm from. And so we stop in Dearborn, Michigan, and a guy I buy 420,000 square feet of maple a month from. I'm a good customer. This guy, Don Sadler, he drives down from the UP. I mean, he's that far away from Canada, so every other word's And he's like become a dear friend of mine. He drives down and we meet, and we're at the Dearborn Inn in near Detroit. Built by Henry Ford, 1931. And he and Thomas Edison would sit in front of this fireplace, crackling fireplace, and smoke cigars and talk about how stuff should be. So anyway, I'm there with him. And we're sitting by that fireplace. Fireplace is crackling. It's October 30th, so and the trees outside are exploding with color. I mean, unreal. It's actually one of my favorite places. And so we sit there, and I said, Don, he says, before you say one more thing, John, he says, I wish I was going with you on this journey. This is going to be a journey you'll never forget in your life. And I said, I know. I mean, this is Antonio Stradivari. So he says, I said, Don, I need one major piece of advice, please. And so we scooted our chairs closer, and I'm there. Now, Esther is filming this whole thing, so you can see this on our website. It's actually a pretty cool event. We're going to run a little snippet of it after I get done boring you guys to tears. Anyway, so I said, so give me one piece of advice. And Don leans up to me and he goes, look out for them knots. I said, not those knots, them knots. I said, that's it? He goes, that's it. I said, okay. Bam, off we go to Milan, Italy, right? So we go there, and Renzo is there, bam, 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 waiting for us. And he picks us up. This guy's got his tail wagging. He's ready to go. We drive to Bolzano, Italy. We go to Bolzano, spend a night, nice bottle of wine, sit there and talk about how wonderful this world is and how beautiful this area, the Val di Fiamme. And I challenge all of you, and I swear to God, you will thank me if you ever get the opportunity to go there and follow this journey. It is just one of the most unbelievable things you'll ever do. So next morning, up we go, and we drive up. It's really paved, and we go up high, and now it's dirt roads. Now it's kind of like two-tire tracks. And when you see the marker that's called the Singing Forest, that's where you stop. So we park. I swear to God, we get out of the car. Esther's filming with an i7. I mean, come on. Anyway, the only sound you can hear is your feet on the ground with the twigs or the branches or leaves. And there are these majestic 80-foot tall, maybe 100-foot tall Norwegian spruce. That's the species. And I look over to my left, and there's this gigantic dolomite rock that's 20,000 feet tall with a 1,000-foot long waterfall. And you can't hear it. It's dead silence. Silence like I have never in my life experienced. Right, sweetheart? She was there. By the way, that's Esther Good over there. Anyway, so we're there, and I go, okay, here's my big opportunity. I mean, I've come a long way. Renzo, because, you know, they tap on the trees there. That's what Antonio did. I said, Renzo. I didn't even look at him. It's like a caddy situation. Renzo, give me the hammer. And he goes, Giovanni, I forgot the hammer. And I went, oh, shit, man. And when I went, shit, it went, shit, right across the... And so I said, I came a long way to do this. And so he goes, un momento, and he goes into his trunk of his car, a machina, and he's like rummaging around, and he goes, tire iron. So he comes out. I'm going to play you a little film. But it's a tire iron in my hand. So I walk up to the first tree, this beautiful, oh my God, just to hold it. And I clear a little spot. I don't want to hurt it, right? And I hit it, and it goes. There's nothing there. It's like if you went out and hit that tree out there. I mean, it's going to do that. So I thought, oh man, come on. And Renzo goes, no. Subito, questo, qui. He goes, oh, go over here. So I go over to the next one, and I was already kind of let down, and then I hit this tree, and it goes, ding. I mean, a bloody marimba bar. This thing, a living tree that big, a creature that's that huge, just sang. That's why they call it the singing forest. And it was like, I said right there, there's a Santa Claus, there's an Easter Bunny, all of them exist. They're all cool guys, and they really exist, and it gave me all this beautiful hope for the world. And then I said, he goes, no, try the next one. I went to the next one. Bang! You know, it was just like, wow. And then I had to try all of them, and Esther's like filming. She's going, oh, we're going to be here all night. They finally dragged me out of there. But that experience was so much. We went down to the yard in the Val di Fiamme, and they had pre-selected some, and they gave me a proper hammer to check them, and they all had JG written on the end, which was like, I don't know, I felt honored. So I hit those, and they were better than the ones I was tapping in the forest. So they had pre-selected the week before. So I said, okay, let's load them up. And they loaded them on this big, huge semi, and down the expressway for Selje, Slovenia. That's where it went. And then we took the mountain route, which is about 5.5 hours, and we got there at night. So I'm sitting there, and we're checking into the hotel, and there's a restaurant there. I mean, it's at the top of the Adriatic Sea. It's like this cool place. You just got to go. So I go up there, and we're sitting at this beautiful Italian-style dinner, and they said, "You're going to meet Mr. Severino." I'm going, who's Mr. Severino? And they went, "This is the guy." So, you know, by the way, you don't just go cut down trees in the Val di Fiamme. And especially there's a thing called the Magnificent Community of Val di Fiamme. And what they do is they preserve, they cultivate, they take care of, they actually have procured so many instruments and beautiful things from this valley since 900 AD. So these people are like serious. I mean, you got to be invited. Who's this guy who makes drums in Oxnard? Where the hell is Oxnard? Anyway, so I sit down, and Mr. Severino is sitting there like this. He's very Italian, English about that big, and he goes, "Tell me your story." So I turn into a 14-year-old kid, just like that. "Well, sir, you know, you can't help but be like, I'm humbled to be in front of this man. He controls all the wood in that area." And I sat there and I told him, "I've come a long way. It's been a long journey. It's been my 45th anniversary. And I know the heritage, and I know how special this really is." And I said, "I really want to somehow," and he goes, "Stop." Going, "This could go bad. Come here." So I walk around the table, the longest walk you'll ever take. And this big smile came, and he says, "I'll help you." And you know what? Right here, this got full. This got so full. So he says, "Let's go get to work." I went, "Beautiful." So we all went to bed. Those guys went to the veneer factory at 3 o'clock in the morning. They were boiling my logs. And by the time they picked Esther and I up at 9 o'clock, we went there. They had 10 Slavic women dedicated to this little project, and this big man up on the, pulling the brake on the lathe. First log comes in, it's all steaming. It's got JG written on the end, and I'm proud. And they clamp it in, and it starts to turn. Starts to turn. The blade comes in, and all the stuff's coming off, like, you know, until it gets really true and really round. And then the sheets come off, full of knots. In the back of my head, the only piece of advice he had was, "Look out for them knots." And I said, stop, please. And Renzo was looking at me, and I go, "They'll use that for furniture or something else." I said, let's we need the next one. So I'm the client, so I can kind of be a little arrogant, right? They bring the next one out, steaming, and they chuck it up, and I am sitting there, and Esther's like filming me with my fingers like this. And all those 10 Slavic women are looking at me like, "Oh, God." And it starts to turn. And what comes out? Dead clean, beautiful Stradivari Norwegian spruce. We cut 30,000 square feet that day, and it was glorious, beautiful, and historical. I tapped on those logs. So anyway, then we cut 27,900 of a Croatian sycamore that day. But you know what? We didn't get that figure that was on my desk that I was showing Renzo in Oxnard. He says, "Don't worry. We go back to my warehouse, It'll be there. I've got some. So we get in the car and drive 6 hours back to Milan. We get there, and it's like late at night. I open up my computer, and there's an email from this guy named Axel Groh. Axel Groh is a friend of mine that I buy wood from in Karlsruhe, Germany. And he's a beautiful man. He goes, I heard you were in Slovenia today. I said, how do you know that? He says, very small world, this veneer world, you know. And he said, if I can help you any way, please let me know. And which, once again, the acceptance of this whole thing and what I can bring to you, but what it takes to get there is the journey and a beautiful part of everything we do. And next morning, Renzo, bam, 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 takes me to his warehouse, and he's got 6 burly guys, and they whip off this tarp, and they say, here's my Croatian quarter-cut sycamore. It was nice, but it wasn't what I wanted. So he almost cried. We got 95% of everything we needed on that trip. So I flew back to LA, Esther and I, the next morning, and I was like, I got back in the office, and I'm jet-lagged like a you-know-what. And I'm sitting there with my head in my hands going, what am I going to do? Because these guys want that stuff for the inlay in the middle. They've got to do it. This is like November 10th or something like that now. It's November 10th. The NAMM show is January what, 15 that year? So I'm shaking going, what am I going to do? Who can help me? You know, can you guys help me with this? I don't know. It's not your expertise. It's supposed to be mine. So I look at this picture I showed Renzo when he was there, when he flew out, you know, to see me in the first place. And I look at this glorious piece, and I said, oh, veneer source, Shane. So I call up Shane, and I go, look, there's a log, 525. Is there any chance you've got something like that? Anything like it? And he goes, John, we still have log 525. I said, how much? He goes, 10,600 square feet. I go, that's perfect. And he goes, I said, do you know the guys at this place in Indiana, CPI? He goes, Eric and Doug? I go, yeah, we deal with them all the time. They're 30 minutes from here. Well, let's just throw this log in our truck and drive it over there. I went halfway around the world to find that damn thing, and it was sitting on my desk the whole time. But that's the journey, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And I want to show you a little tiny clip right here, if we've got that, guys. And it should be coming. Here we go. Audio would be good. We did 45 years to bring to you. There's a thing that we covet called Stradivari legno. Now, Stradivari legno means Stradivari wood. Those instruments were an incredible accomplishment of an incredible man. So we wanted to retrack his footsteps, if you will. And we decided, let's construct something incredibly special for our 45th anniversary. There's a place right at the base of the Dolomite Mountains, north of Bolzano, Italy, that is like this magic forest where they actually got all the materials for Antonio. And it says, welcome to the singing forest. What they mean by singing is what you do with these trees is you take a hammer and you tap on them. And I hit this tree and it goes, doom, and I swear this glorious, beautiful tree sang. And not only did the tree resonate, but the entire forest just started to sing. You could hear it vibrate through the forest. I mean, what an incredible revelation for everybody to enjoy what Antonio Stradivari set out to do. Things are happening fast. There's going to be sycamore on the inside, very inside, 2 plies of that. There's going to be all this Norwegian spruce in the middle, and we're going to have the sycamore before the outer and this high-figured sycamore on the outside. Nobody's made percussion instruments by and large from this kind of combination. But what a journey. When it all comes to fruition, it's so gratifying. I'm so proud of all the artisans and the people in our factory who took all their parts and put them with all their soul into this drum kit. And here we have it. Years, eh? If you've got nothing to do with your time for some reason, I mean, you're sitting there and it's like, oh God, I don't feel good, I'm taking a day off. There's a 35-minute version of this that we shot that is actually details every step of the way. But I just wanted to share that with you. I hope it wasn't boring at all. But the next thing I want to share with you is, and by the way, this is the snare drum right here. If you look at it really close, the inlay is Italian gray poplar. The F-holes and the DWs are black dyed pearwood, and the Roman numerals are a sapphire dyed koto wood. And now, just think about the people who put that in with pins. It's cut out, but it's put in with human hands. That's a lot of work. I mean, if you're in jail, you got time. But trying to convince these guys in Indiana, they're going, I don't know, man. Anyway, so, yeah, right. Jail drums. Hey, that's an idea guy right there. I love it. We will. You could be.
Therapy for all of us.
You know what? Instead of beating off. Anyway, so anyway, dig this. So that was a big part of our year. The next thing that was like huge to me was, you know, we do these icon snares. The icon snare is a thing where I started off with Charlie Watts, and that just damn well might be the next one, because that was my first one, you know, lips and tongue, and we did it so perfectly, and Charlie loved it, and so it turns out that his management didn't, so they poo-pooed the whole thing. Well, that's where we're at. But we first did Dark Side of the Moon, which was one of my favorites. And Nick Mason, he's such an incredible friend. He's a good friend of Russ Kunkel's. They wound up sitting next to each other in this, like a blues cruisy kind of thing in a boat, and they just got tight. And I look for some cool things to happen with those two guys. And I will support it. I will be there for every inch of the way if I can, because they're legendary people. But But his, the whole idea of the icon is that it goes to a charity. All of the proceeds wind up in a charitable situation. So his was, does anybody know what the Roundhouse is? It's the center of London. There's this big, huge place that used to be a train switching station. Trains would pull in, and they'd put them on a turntable, and they'd load up people, and they'd run out. Well, that no longer is in existence, so they turned that whole big thing into a concert venue. Duh. And that's where Pink Floyd played their very first big concert in '67. Underneath it are all these rehearsal places. And so they donate all that space and instruments to hone the skills of young people and people who just can't afford it, to play instruments. And it's a great thing, right? So that's his charity. Second one I did was Queen. And of course, that was the most intricate. The guys in Indiana just hate me. I mean, I have to have my wife start my car in the morning when I'm there. Anyway, it's a bad scene. But that's a very intricate deal. And their charity was the Freddie Mercury AIDS Foundation. The next one was Neil Peart, of course, who's a dear friend. And that was the Time Machine, and his is Princess Margaret's cancer research in Toronto, Canada. So we got this thing going, and you know what? They sold like crazy, and writing those checks is the greatest. I mean, normally when I write a check, I've got a grimace on my face. These huge checks to that charity make me so damn happy. So anyway, we went through a bunch of different incarnations of the icon, and I was sitting there going, okay, this year's icon, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? And Terry Bozzio is a dear friend of mine, and he's a big part of DW because he partakes in the drum channel. Are you hip to the drum channel? Right. Don Lombardi, genius idea. The whole Lombardi family is like really dedicated to education and building this industry of drummers and musicians, and I applaud them tremendously for that. So I said, what is Terry Bozzio's icon? Missing persons? I don't know. I don't know if I want to put Dale Bozzio on the front of it. And yeah, depending on what color her hair is that day. And Terry's such a teddy bear, lovable guy. And I went, wait a second. I used to work for Frank. And the black page came to my mind. So the black page, right? Now that's a challenge. How do you put a complicated, if I put that piece of music in front of any of you guys who play drums, and I think most of you do, you just go, maybe next time, let me go study for a minute. 1% maybe, right? Anyway, so Frank, I got a little video about that, but Frank, he wrote this thing, and I was on the road with Frank Zappa in 1982, and we had to play all this stuff. I was a drum technician. But at the end of this tour in 82, summer of 82, I find myself, Chad Wackerman, who's flawless, just wanted to pick up a couple rim shots that he missed or something. So we had the kit set up in Frank's studio up on Woodrow Wilson, which is no longer there. It's now owned by Lady Gaga. Give me a break. Anyway, so I'm up there, and we got all the mics on it, and everything sounds great. And Frank goes, John, there's a noise in that last floor tom. So I went, but don't touch any mics. So I do the mechanic thing on your back. Oh, damn! There's a frickin' I hate it. There's a wrinkle, right? How could I miss that? So and all of a sudden these two legs show up. Little guy. And he goes, what you doing? I go, who are you? He goes, I'm Amit. I go, okay. Well, I got this drum key, and I had a cup of coffee, and I set that down, like everyone drinks coffee at Frank's place. So I have my coffee sitting there, and I go, okay, look, I'm going to take this out. You hear this noise right here? Bang, bang, bang. Look, I got a drum key, and this is how you do it, and blah, blah, blah. And before I know it, I'm talking to myself. There's nobody there. He just totally, he wasn't interested. So I shimmy back out, hit the drum, boom. Frank goes, perfect. Let's go. So I pick up my coffee and frickin' WD-40. He's a little bastard shot WD-40 in my. So anyway, when he came in, because he had to bless the black page, he says, have we met? And I said, oh yes, we have met. And I told him that story, and he and I are now locked to tight friends. Love this man. It's a great relationship that we have with the Zappa family, and I always had a great relationship with Frank, but I could go long on that, but I won't. But the whole idea of the black page was a passion of mine, and it is something that, as you can see it here, I hope. I'd get up, but why? It's like we took the black page all the way around. That's inlaid black dyed pear wood. Frank's stash is pear wood. It's white dyed bird's eye maple, and we engraved, because when I found the original transcript, Frank did it in pencil. So I tried to replicate pencil with the engraving, and I think we got pretty damn close. And so Amit said, what would make this really totally a package is if we pressed a 7-inch vinyl. I'm going, great, Amit, that's going to cost me how much? But we did it. So if you buy one of these drums, and there's 250 of them being made. If you buy one of these drums, you get that 7-inch vinyl, and on the sleeve of that vinyl is the music for the black page. I mean, the drum part's on the drum. So it's a very collectible, cool. Hey, Paul, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you, John?
Good to see you, Pally.
Same here.
So it's a very collectible thing. There's only going to be 250, and I think we're right down to it. So if the spirit moves anybody, and Terry signs the top of, hey, that's a good price, by the way. And anyway, Terry signs the head. There's another head in there in case you actually want to play the drum, so you don't beat that baby up. It's a great thing, and it goes to a really great charity, is St. Jude's Children. And so we have a little video right here. I'd actually like to run for you guys right now, if we could.
Hi, I'm Terry Bozio, and I'm here to talk about the DW Black Page Icon Snare. It's a tribute to Frank Zappa. It has his iconic mustache. It's a beautiful bird's eye maple snare, and it's laser etched with the music of the Black Page, the notation. And then here where it says the Black Page, that's inlaid with black pear, which is really beautiful. So this snare drum is a great instrument, but it's really more about the tribute to the man and to his music, and I just happen to be the lucky guy who he handed the page of music to first. You know, for me, we were at rehearsal. Frank was always late. We were, there for a couple hours playing and jamming and working on things, and Frank walked into the room with his, monster gallon-sized coffee pot, thing that he always carried around, and his briefcase. And he came into the stage and set down his stuff and popped open the briefcase and pulled out this sheet of music and handed it to me. And he said, "What do you think about this, Bozio?" And I looked at it, and it was the Black Page. My words were, gee, Frank, I'm impressed. You know, it was a really complex piece of music. There were parts I could sight read, so that was no problem, but there was some, you know, as he called it, statistical density to the piece. So there was a lot of notes, and you know, I had to work on it. So I just chipped away at it for 20 minutes a day. It wasn't a pressure thing like an audition. I understand Vinny had to actually audition with the Black Page, and so I think he sight read that to get the gig with Zappa. So I can tell you that it wasn't the case with me. It wasn't a pressure thing at all. So I just chipped away at it for 20 minutes a day, and in a week or two, I had it under my fingers and could play it for Frank. And at that point, he took the music back and said, great, and I'm going to write the melody to it. And he wrote the melody and brought that back in, and we started to play it as a band. And the rest is kind of history. I think the lore of the Black Page came from, he noticed that during the breaks, a lot of the musicians would be, you know, hanging around the coffee machine, and they seemed to be living in mortal terror that they would get called for some innocent commercial jingle on a Monday morning and be faced with a piece of music that was so filled with notes and so difficult that the page appeared black. So that was sort of the impetus and the inspiration for Frank writing his own Black Page. I just feel very lucky and grateful because it turned into something bigger than me. And that's because of the greatness of the man who composed the music. I just happened to be there at the time. He wrote it for me. He wrote it for my drum kit and the instruments that I had. And it was a through composed classical piece. So it seemed to have, you know, taken on a life of its own. And I just happened to be the lucky guy who got all the credit for being the first one there. So that's the story of the Black Page. Now, about this snare, it's a beautiful thing. It's bird's eye maple, black pear inlay, laser engraved notation. It's got the 3-position snare strainer and the mag throw off, which is really great. The tuning is exceptionally fine. You know, all the bells and whistles. It comes with a beautiful black head, and the package is going to come with a beautiful bag which has a 7-inch vinyl of me playing the Black Page, and also the sleeve of the vinyl will have the original melody that Frank wrote for the rest of the instrumentalists to play. There's only going to be 250 of them made, and I'm going to sign every head. So I should do that now, and then I'll leave it to you collectors to snatch up the 250 before they're all gone. And there it is. Thank you, Frank.
Wow. I mean, I pulled that off. You know, Gail Zappa and I had a kind of a little bit of a tumultuous relationship, but she was a fine lady. And she was tough on all this stuff. She said, you know, you can't just use that. Musicians, as you all are, thank you, they all live off of little pieces of money. You know, so you can't just take something. So I really worked hard at making sure everyone was compensated and paid, you know, during this whole thing. I'm a musician-ish. You know, you couldn't teach me. All I wanted to play was rock and roll. I didn't want to play on a rubber pad, you know. So my partner, Don Lombardi, tried to teach me all my life, and he said, hey, you know, you're not going to be that guy. So anyway, so I wound up here, and but making drums and making different types of drums and researching wood and going on adventures. God, this next thing to Australia is just blowing my mind. I can't wait. I just hope my back is swinging for that, but with the right medication, it will. Anyway. I never was that guy to say something like that, but I am now. So anyway, I make these drums, and I make a lot of different shells, and I hope that many of you are familiar with what we do at DW, and I think you wouldn't be here if you weren't somewhat familiar. I have a lot of dealers come out to DW And it's been more popular for our given distributors to actually do this, to fly them out if they perform very well. And, you know, what you get is a trip to DW and listen to JG babble on about bullshit. Anyway, but they all come in and they're all so happy and they take the factory tour. How many people have been to my factory? Anybody? So there's a couple. Yeah? It doesn't let you down, right? I mean, it's you know, I got these people who come from like Minnesota or whatever, and they got their kids, and they go, yeah, we went to Disneyland, City Walk, and Universal, and DW. That's our next thing. So I'm honored to be part of that. Anyway, so the deal is, you know, a lot of these dealers come in and they sit down and they want to close the door in my office, and I've got this really strange office. It's like I got projects absolutely everywhere, in every corner, and there's stuff everywhere. Paul's, you've been there, and it's like all this stuff everywhere, but it's a project. It's an idea. It's a thing. You know, my wife got tired of me getting up early in the morning and flipping on the lights and going, God, Jesus, do we have to do this? So she bought me a pad of paper so I can write an idea down. They just come. Well, these people come into my office and they go, you know, we've got employees that deal with a lot of people who need advice. Let's say they're from France or Austria. They go, we love everything you do, but you know what? Damn you at the same time. I go, you know, the smile. I go, why? And they go, well, we're selling Ludwig drums. We're selling Tama, Pearl, Yamaha, all these brands. And they've got to know all the attributes and the specifics about those drums. And you come out with these 30-some-odd drum shells. What the hell are we supposed to, I mean, the guy can't possibly know these things. And I go, well, I didn't mean to do harm. And I, honest to God, I didn't. But I mean, I just can't stop creating, right? So, exactly. So they said, you know, there's a guy who comes in with his credit card. You know, and guys here at Pitbull, they've seen this happen. And they'll come in and they'll just go, okay, honey, here's the credit card. It's your birthday. I'm sick and tired of hearing about it, right? And it's like, here, just take it and just, yeah, it's you. And just go and just like do it. You know, you've been talking about it. And so he comes into that store, wherever it's X country, and he comes in and he goes, tell me the difference between cherry mahogany and maple mahogany. And the guy behind the counter goes, well, we could call the company, or he comes up with a lame idea. Can you tell me about oak? What's the attributes of oak? I can't. So he kind of puts his credit card back, and he goes, you know what? I'll come back. And the tragedy is he doesn't come back. It's happened so many places in every corner of the world, which made me create this book, which we will have if any of you would like to have one. You know, who's been on the road before in a traveling situation? Many of you. Look at these. Look at all these musicians, right? And when you're like on the road and you got this itinerary, and you open it up and you go, okay, from Pitbull Audio, I'm 5 minutes. No, you're 45 minutes, you know, or from whatever venue, or you know, it's always wrong. So we all wound up calling that the Book of Lies. What I bring to you is the Book of Plies. And here's what the Book of Plies is. This is designed to unwind, unravel, and It took me 6 months. So when I realized it's taken me 6 months to figure this shit out, and I created it, how in the hell is a guy behind a counter supposed to know all these things? So I said, okay, who's going to write the foreword for this? My pal, Neil Peart. So I emailed Neil. Neil's retired now. I know. It's sad to me. But yeah, I don't know. You know what he's loving doing? Writing. And voiceovers. Like, that guy's got a silk voice. So he says, I'm writing a book right now. And I said, is there any chance, God, any chance at all, snowball in hell, I need a foreword for this book? And he goes, oh, God, JG, anything. So 10 minutes later, the foreword comes. 10 minutes, this thing comes, which is out of this world. When you read this, and I hope you will, I mean, if anything, the whole thing is worth it for that. I hope it's worth more than that to you. But so he wrote that. In this book, it tells you why, how, what's in the mind of DW and why we do the things we do. And in the back is this chart. It was kind of designed for drum shops, and it goes, I mean, I won't unravel it, it's about that big. But there's a legend at the bottom that tells you why JG recommends, and, you know, special order and blah, 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 all those things. There's codes. But it'll tell you how many plies for this particular kind of shell in inches and millimeters. I get these guys coming up, I would like to have a 7mm shell. I'm going, what the hell's that? You know? So we figured that out. And is it available in this kind of configuration, this one? Anyway, so we go through all this stuff, and lo and behold, at the very end of the chart, it'll say that particular drum shell and configuration is on page 28. So you go to page 28, and blah-de-blah, I mean, and it has the exploded view of all the ply orientations. Grain orientation is everything. And I'm going to go on to that in a second. But it'll tell you all that, and then you say, well, okay, screw that, John. I want to know how it sounds. On page 12, there's a chart, just in case you feel bold enough to have one of these. Oh, there's some pictures that Esther took in this thing. You know, I'm just looking at it again. There's a chart with all the different types of woods from bright down to dark. So it'll give you a guide of where you want to go, because you know what? These drums are not inexpensive, as we all know. I'm not proud of that, but I am proud of the fact that we make it in California, in the United States. I am proud of that. But that comes with a price tag. That's expensive, and I wish it wasn't that way. But this bad boy right here helps you understand and navigate through the twisted wreckage that JG's mind is. And hopefully that is something that's going to really, really help you and get your idea around, well, what do I want if I really do want a DW kit? The people here at Pitbull Audio are incredible. Todd is incredible, who's like been hosting this whole thing. The rest of the staff that have been helpful to us are incredible. You know, what an oasis in a place. I mean, we did next to no business in San Diego till these folks came along, you know, and suddenly, you know, to see inspiration by somebody who can really, you know, tell you the story, tell you why, tell you how this goes. That's helping DW tremendously. The fact that you're all here really means a lot to me. You know, I'm going to, in a second after I'm going to bore you one more moment, but there's somebody I really want to introduce to you, and it's going to be good. But before I do that, hey, where's Johnny? Where's John Dewey? Where the hell is he? There he is. This is John Dewey, works for me. Actually, he works with me. And what we want to do is I want to show you 3 things real quick. So there's 3 shells there, right? There's 3 types of veneers here. Talk about the Book of Plies. Let's talk about the Book of Plies. All right. This is, and this is going to be hard, but we got some time together later. But this is kind of hard to listen to. But I want you to hold that in your hand. This is horizontal veneer. See the grain running this way? It's 1/36 of an inch thick. John, listen to the microphone. Can you hear it? Every piece of wood has a musical note, no matter how thin or what size. Now, I'm going to hold it, and I want you to tap the top like I was. The pitch goes up, and the pitch goes up because of tension. Feel the tension in that.
It's hard.
I mean,
it feels like it wants to split in half. Almost.
It's like the tension in the DW boardroom is like this. Okay, so that's what we call horizontal plies. Now, this piece is the exact same size piece of veneer. If you hold your hand out, it goes like that. And the reason it does that is because its strength is this way, not that way. It also has a little note value, but we could never change that note value by bending it because you can't put any tension on it. So that's vertical veneer. Okay? The next piece that we have is, of course, this was in the shower, woke up and went, I got to do this. And every veneer manufacturer in the world Don Sadler's my friend, he didn't roll his eyes. He goes, that's a cool idea. That's diagonal. That's 45 degrees. And when you hold this, it kind of corkscrews in a weird way, right? And the only way it gets its tension, like, is if I try and square this up. Tap it, Johnny. It goes up in pitch. We can do this together later on. But feel that. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Right?
Resist itself.
Nobody knows why the hell I want to do that. I didn't know why I wanted to do it, but I did it. So anyway, let's listen to the 3 shells. I want this one, and then no, and then that one. Okay, so this is the horizontal, okay? It's the horizontal shell. Listen to its tonality. They're all the same size shell. Don't you love that? It does. That's how most of my drums are. I love this guy. Then this shell, which is the same size but vertical veneer, goes. And then the X shell, which is, yeah, they're all the same.
All 14.
All 14s. Then put your ears on. This is the X shell. He's got good ears. Isn't that amazing to you? When I realized what grain orientation really means, this opened up so many doors for me. It's just absolutely, thank you. I mean, once again, in the shower, that's where all these ideas come. But I got a great shower and a huge water bill. But it's like, when I realized what this could do, it just, the doors opened up and man, I walked through it and I'm not done walking through it. And so you think you've made most of the shells, cherry mahogany, maple mahogany, different thicknesses of maple gum. There's another thing that happened to me that was all about classics. We make this shell that is designed to kind of be the it's designed to be the, what do you call it? No, it's called the, Jesus Christ. It's an old shell that it was all poplar and mahogany. Radio King. Brain farts, I'm getting older. Anyway, Radio King. So we made that, but you see, poplar is a bad boy. It's a very bad boy. It doesn't like to behave at all. And I have this love-hate relationship with poplar. So if I was like walking through the forest and shivering cold, about to ice up, I wouldn't bend over to pick this shit up to burn it to stay warm. That was my relationship. But we did find a real beauty about this material. The beauty about it is that it encompasses so much warmth and bottom end. So we made this shell that was horizontal mahogany, really thick, 3/16 of an inch thick. Poplar, which is lumber. And most of it breaks, and it's a pain in the rear end, and I gotta, and then horizontal mahogany on the inside, but really deep 10-ply maple reinforcing hoops, and it's a hard shell to make, and my shell shop just has a really tough time. But I will tell you, when those shells are made, and if that's what you're looking for, they do one thing amazingly well. They deliver big bottom. And I mean, talk about mud flaps. So anyway, that's what those drums do. So in comes this guy, Russ Kunkel, who I had never met in 45 years. 45 years of being in this business, I never met Russ Kunkel. And a friend of mine passed away who was married to Shauna, and they became tight and they fell in love, and it's the most glorious love story I've ever heard. And they are now married. So Russ and Shauna are married. Flies into town, and he goes, okay, John, let's go through it. I've been with Yamaha drums for 45 years. Let's do this thing. So I said, I took him through the entire factory. I mean, every single sawdust I make, I showed him where people got hurt making shells. I thought, I just took him through every footstep of the whole place. And we were going to spend 2 days together. So he comes in, and I had to leave him because I had an appointment that night. And my partner, John Lombardi, said, no, I'll take him to dinner. We'll have a good time. And turns out, I set him down in the drum channel, and Dave Elish was playing. And Dave Elish, who's an incredible drummer, great guy, but he's playing this classics drum kit. So the car pulls up the next morning, and out pops Russ. He comes up to me and he goes, I know what I want for my studio kit, because he needs a studio kit, and he's touring with Lyle Lovett. So I need 2 kits. You know, no big demand on me. I said, I got my pen out and the paper, and I'm going, okay, what's it going to be, Pally? Classics. I said, really? Only because, and the reason is, listen, if you like that one thing, and classics are great drums, do not get me wrong, they're fantastic. But they do one major thing very, very well. I said, really, Russ? And so we went out and walked in the back, and we ran into my shell maker, and his name's Sean Smith. And this guy is laser focused. This guy knows every damn thing I'm thinking about in shells. And so they're standing there, and Russ says, yeah, I want classics. And then, you know, Sean went, oh, come on, Russ. And Russ is like new with the company. He's going, guys, I feel really like terrible. What's the matter here? You make that shell. Anyway, so I wanted more. He was doing a Harry Shearer record, you know, from Spinal Tap, Derek Smalls. And so my friend CJ is like involved with it, and Danny Korchmeyer is playing guitar, and it's going to be like a thing. So while they're talking, I pick up a piece of, and I had some prototype wood on this table, and it was 1/32 poplar. And I picked it up, and I was like staring off over to Sean Smith, and he goes, oh my God, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? And I went, I'm really thinking that. And I mean, it's great when you've got a relationship. I don't know in your working relationships in your life, but if you got somebody who's like totally into what you know and what you want to do, this is the guy. And so Russ is standing there, and I go, and he's going, what's going on? What's going on? I said, well, Russ, hold on a second. So we MIDI up. I mean, we totally like lock up like 2 moons and Encino. And I go, okay, here we're going to have horizontal maple on the outside, 5 plies of 1/32 poplar on the inside. Then the last ply is going to be horizontal mahogany to bring that pitch where? Down. You heard the shells, right? It brings that pitch down. And then, because poplar's a bad boy, you know, we put 1 inch deep, 6-ply maple reinforcing hoops. And the last ply of the reinforcing hoop, when we're done, I wanted to show it to you, is vertical mahogany. And I think that Russ actually took can we have a selfie of the moment? Because that was the moment this happened. We put these shells together, and it is something that we've made 1 kit. We made 1 kit, and he took it to the studio and just took it out of cardboard boxes, and the shit works. It doesn't just do one thing. It does a lot more things. And so the guy who's responsible for it actually is here. This is Russ Kunkel. All right, Russ. You got it, Pally? Okay, man. Turn it on. Turn it on.
I don't have a lavalier mic on, but I think you can hear me anyway. I'm going to play, attempt to, position. hopefully I won't screw it up,
No.
because there's no click. I'll let you know, I'm not ready yet.
I'm kind of welded to this one, so. You got it, pal? Was that great? I mean, screw the drums. I mean, he's great, you know. And I am really proud to call him my friend in a very special way. I think we've managed to carve out a pretty damn good relationship here, and you know, and your family. Yeah, what was it the other day? I said, "Hey Russ, could you play this song?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Could you just lift the drums off?" Well, I didn't. I hung up the phone, and I'm sitting in my easy chair because my back was messed up. When I thought about what that's going to take, what did you have to do? You had to go call up Jackson.
Yeah, so John says, it would be really great if I introduce you and you come out and you play. Just play drums to Running on Empty. That's a song that a lot of people know. So that could be fun, right? Okay, see you later. And so I'm driving, you know, in my car.
And I worried about it later, I swear to God. I'm sorry.
Good. And so I go, well, I'm just going to have to call Jackson and just straight up ask him. So I got him on the phone. And I said, okay, first of all, before I ask you this question, I'm going to preface it by saying, if someone called me up and asked me to do this, I would say it's an arduous task, and I probably wouldn't do it. And he starts to laugh. He goes, what do you need? And I said, I need to get my hands on a mix of Running on Empty without the drums. And then he really laughed. So, long story short, he said, absolutely, no problem. And he said, my son is an audio engineer. His name's Nathaniel Kunkel.
Oh, one of the best in the business.
And he said, this sounds like a job for Nathaniel. So he calls me. He says, I can't do anything about it over the weekend. I'll let you know on Monday once I talk to some people, because I have to find out if there's a digital version of those masters, or if we have to go dig up the analog 24 tracks. So Monday comes and goes, Tuesday comes and goes, Wednesday comes and goes. Finally Thursday I go, I gotta call him and see what's going on. Just only a week away until today. So he gets on the phone with me and he goes, well, we ran into a couple of problems. We thought we knew where it was, but it's not there. So I could just tell that heads were rolling in his department because nobody could find, you know, the digital masters of a very important piece of you know, American rock and roll history.
Well, I mean, who hasn't heard that song?
So
Right.
they finally found one. It was in a place it wasn't supposed to be. Warner Brothers had it, and so then you know, it's like we got it together, and my son went into the studio and did this mix for me to do it. And I'm keeping this from John because I don't want to tell him until I actually have my hands on it. You know, to tell him that
Don't worry, I was Percocet City. I was like, I just had this surgery. I'm going, I know he's got it.
So it was great, and we got it done, and I was able to call him and said, you got it. We took care of it, and here we are.
Boy, did you take care of it. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, you know, you talk about a family of music. I mean, Nathaniel is right there at the peak, I mean, of a lot of guys. I know that when you took this is kit number 2.
Number 2.
And you were saying uncannily, it sounds just like
It's
kit
identical.
number 1.
It's identical. The first kit, when I took it into the studio to work with Harry Shearer, he's doing an album of his own, kind of a solo record. It's the first time they had been recorded and played. And literally, I took them out of the box. I sat it up. Ed Cherney is the engineer, world-class engineer.
He's incredible.
And I'm doing the drum check, and he goes, "Those are new drums?" And I went, "Yep, brand new." And he goes, "Did you tune them?" I said, "No, I just took them out of the box." They sound just like that, you know. And this kit sounds exactly like the other one.
Yeah.
So it's the quality control is pretty amazing. Did you like the way they sounded?
I did. There's a little tiny split deal in the kick drum. Did you like the kick drum?
Yeah, I loved it.
Oh. Did you like the toms? Did you like him? I mean, you put that all together, and my God. So anyway, I'm sitting there. Just indulge me if you wouldn't mind. With Sean Smith, my shellmaker, And I go, I got to have a name for this because this guy is a contemporary classic. And I went, wait, whoa. So this is branded contemporary classic after Russ Kunkel.
What an honor for me.
So, I mean, we rolled the dice on this, and to say nothing against our regular classic, if you're looking for that big band sound and that super duper big bottom thing, that's a drum set for you. This one, I feel, is going to be a recording wonder for a lot of situations.
I think so too. I really do.
And I really feel that these drums cross over and do a lot of different things. So that's what I'm excited about, is the fact that it can cover all these bases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to tune my toms lower in the scale because I always have. I prefer that. And these have such a beautiful low end to them, but they speak. They articulate, which is what you might hear out of a maple kit or something different. And so it's a wonderful combination of both of those things. And you have to tell me if I'm correct or not, but I think one of the reasons that it sounds like that is because the decision to make that center piece of poplar be multiple pieces of ply. And it did something, but whatever it did, I love it.
Well, what it did was it kind of got, and this is what I love, getting a artist such as Russ involved with the project and going, well, wait a second, what if we did this? I know that vertical does this, horizontal does that. I mean, once you understand those things, I mean, not to mention thickness of plies and the character of sound, all these things, you start to logically think of your instrument a different way. And to be able to approach your instrument and know more about it and be able to tune it accordingly and understand it. I mean, because let's face it, there's a lot of drums you walk up to and let's see what I can do with this. You know, that shouldn't be the attitude. It should be like, oh my God, how much beauty can I bring out of this? I don't care if it's my drum set or anybody's drum set. But when you can predict what you think is going to go down and what you think is going to happen, that's what this was a great example of. And that day we spent together doing that, I think he took a picture. He says, I got to take a picture of this moment.
Yeah, we captured that.
Because we were all stunned, like, did we just do this? Anyway, but that's the way stuff happens. It doesn't happen with white lab coats, you know, and Coke bottle glasses, you know, and...
I have to take a minute and just say a couple things about this guy. I'm going to have to blow some smoke right now.
God.
When I was, my first drum kit, my mom saved for a year when I was about 17 and saved up enough money to buy me my first drum kit. And it was a sonar kit. And it's the one that had that kind of funny psychedelic outside. When you move the drum, it moved and turned different colors. And as soon as I got that kit, and I don't know if any of you other guys or people do this, but I took it apart about 10 times. Took every nut, every bolt, every lug, because I wanted to know everything about it. And because if it broke, I want to know how to fix it, get spare screws, pack the lugs with cotton, the whole thing. But I think it was maple. I don't know if it got. Yeah, it might have been. Yeah.
Probably nickel.
So, but one thing I never thought about all these years was the importance of the wood. And through meeting John and spending time with him, I've come to realize that the wood and what you do with it is much like a painting palette. It's like all the different colors, and you mix the colors and they produce different things. And all the other drum companies I've been with, and I'm not going to mention any, but you know, it's like that information wasn't readily available. If you wanted to know about what a maple, what made up the kit that you had, you could find out what it was, but you didn't know why they chose that, or why is that different than this. And John freely gives this information, and that's why the Book of Plies is so important. If you get a chance to look at this or get one, you really be doing yourself a favor. It is one of the most informative things that I've ever known. And that's why, John's on a quest to keep the doors wide open and find more wood. I mean, it's like he just told you he's on his way to Tasmania. I mean, who does that, to go get wood? And did you tell the story of the wood you drug out of Lake Michigan?
Well, Superior.
Superior.
Yeah, I mean, we actually took these logs from the bottom of Lake Superior, which were just kind of strewn everywhere. It wasn't any kind of organization, and so they were looking for the Edmund Fitzgerald. Let's bring back a bell for the people. That sank in 5 minutes. And it's cold water. I mean, you put your foot in that water, and it's like it's frozen off. So this guy goes in there, and he goes down, and he's like shoving logs that are quite buoyant. Remember that, Paul, back in those days when we were doing this? And he's like stacking them now because you're underwater. And he shined a light on the end of one of these logs, and there was the sawyer's mark of the day he cut it down, the company he worked for, and his name. And that was his receipt. That's how he got paid. So they attached some toggles to it with an air pump, and poof, up these babies come after being down there for 126 years. I mean, in our country, that's a long time.
That's right.
But, the stuff I got out of Romania was 1,500. But these were just perfectly preserved logs. And why do we have to do this? Because we can. Right? And if we can, and the wood is old growth timber, and it is so beautiful, and the stories to be told inside those things are just arguably the most fascinating, wonderful things. I hope that you will read, if any of you would like to pick up this, and we'll be happy back there. We've got some signature cards and stuff like that just to commemorate the day, which I hope you'll enjoy this. The stories that are told, not in just a company's history or our history together, which we're formulating now, and I'm very proud of that.
Me too, John.
But the story inside these logs, there was fire, there was famine, there was drought, there was cold. There's all these things, and that creates the texture of the wood. And it's just, and then a burl happens, so it's like like a frickin' goiter on your neck. It's like, wow. And then that's gorgeous. And all these things that happen are just, to me, some of the most wonderful things to bring to life. And to bring it to someone like yourself and all of you who might really enjoy these things. I don't know if all of you love this as much as I do, but I have a hard time sleeping at night because I just want to think about another thing, And my wife gets tired of me rolling around in bed because she just goes downstairs and sleeps in her chair. But everything that we do at DW, and most of my things, I spent my entire life around tuning drums. Tuning drums was the biggest thing for me. And any design I make and any sound that I create is based around tuning drums. So it's not like, when you first look at it, you might go, oh, that's a harebrained idea, Not Hal Blaine, harebrained idea. And like all the way down to the tension rods on these drums are like 50 threads per inch.
They don't back off.
They don't. And you can tune into this thing, and you can feel it, you can love it, you can go, oh yeah, there it is. It's like, I don't want to go deep in that. But it's one of those deals, and they stay there all the way to the hoops and the drums are, I spent a year of my bloody life on that because they've got to be stamped and flat and right, because all these things we take care of, all the materials, all of the character of the wood. Do you have cherry? Do you have maple? Do you have oak in there? Do you have birch in there? Poplar? Is all for naught if you don't have decent bearing edges to make it sit right. But more than anything else, and I didn't realize this until I wound up tuning all the drums myself, because my 2 drum tuners took a hike. I mean, they have vacation time, but the hell with that. Anyway, and so I wound up tuning the drums, and I'm going, wait a second, I can't get these little drums together. And it's because the underneath part of a counter hoop, after you punch holes in it and spread the ears out, are just distorted all to hell. And it's like, you think that your drum head's riding in that channel, but lo and behold, it's not. It's on all those inaccurate distortions. So I spent the money. We had a 150-ton press built, 150 tons. And so it comes out of that first thing when it's been spread out, it's been da-da-da, and all this stuff, and punched the holes. It goes in this other thing, and it comes down on this bad boy, and wham! It makes it behave. I mean, it really does. It's like, okay, JG, I get it, you know. So that's every true hoop. That's why it's called a true hoop. And then we rolled the edge over because we can, and it feels better, and it's stronger, and it's just right.
You know, all instrument manufacturers are not the same, and it doesn't matter what the instrument is, but when you're talking about drums, they're made for musicians to play, and musicians are artists. They make art. They either record or they write, but they're making some kind of art, right? And music is art. So what John does is art as well, because he's looking at every single aspect of it, and it's so important, because what ends up coming into the hands of the musicians is a beautiful piece of art for them to go and make their statement with it. And there's no one else I know or I've ever known of that is as passionate about it as John Good is. So.
John, can I add one thing about that? Can I add one thing?
Yes.
All the years.
Paul
that I was-
Cambrero, by the way.
Yeah, I endorsed for this company, and all the years that I was on the road, okay, and we have what we call drums du jour, because I was with bands that unfortunately some of them didn't carry instruments. And the thing about DW, and I'm talking about all over the world, okay, sometimes you have to get other companies, right? You know that, right?
Of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so
The show has to go on.
you get those other companies' drums, and about 95% of the time, you get the drums in tune with themselves, but the pitch between drums is incongruous. And I could tell you from over 20 plus years on the road using DW drums, that's my request on the riders, plus my own drums when I could, that when you get DW drum in tune with itself, you get the next drum in tune with itself, all of the pitches are always congruous with each other. They are so easy to tune, and I'm talking about all over the place. And everybody in the studio for years, same thing. When you show up with those drums in the studio, then the engineers love you.
Ah.
Because they don't have to hardly EQ anything. So
It's true.
I just have to add that.
Thanks,
from
Paul.
my
It's true.
experience.
I appreciate that, Paul. You know, our efforts don't go unnoticed. I mean, it's great. All of you wouldn't be here if you didn't want to know more or understand or just hang out with Russ Kunkel. But I tell you, and I do encourage you to stay and talk with Russ. He's a fascinating man. And I'm proud to call him one of my newest best pals.
Well, I'm proud to be here, John.
Yeah, and we've got a long way to go
We
with
do.
all this stuff. And I know you've got another tune or two
I got
in your
one.
back pocket.
Yeah,
One?
I got one I can do.
You got one?
Yeah.
You want to hear him play another song? Well, why not, right? I think you've had enough of me talking.
Is there a seam on that tom that's facing forward, or is that just an illusion? The farthest tom, the one on the left?
No, the right there.
Yeah, is that a seam? Or
Yeah, it's the way he's got it twisted.
I was going to say, normally you don't want to see the seam.
Well, you had to blow a perfectly good day.
Yeah, come on now. I'm a perfectionist. Come on. Get over it. Hey, Joseph, if it shows, it shows.
You want?
I don't look for it, but it's there. I thought it might have been lighted.
So this is a song from one of Lyle Lovett's records, a song called Isn't That So? Because there's all these stops in it. There's no click. So could be some variables.
You're not playing a click track, are you?
No.
Thank God.
No. Especially with Lyle, we don't really use it. We kind of might reference a tempo or something before we record, but
Didn't he know what he was doing? Putting eyes into my head. If he didn't want me watching him, he left my eyeballs dead. Isn't that so? Isn't that so? You have to go where your heart says go. Isn't that so? Didn't he know what he was doing when he made the magic mind? His own son got a reputation, turning water into wine. Isn't that so? Isn't that so? You have to go where your heart says go. Isn't that so? Line of least resistance will lead me on. Lead me on. Line of least resistance, lead me on. Now didn't he know what he was doing when he divided high and low? You got to bury the seed in the dirt, my friend, if you want the thing to grow. Isn't that so? Isn't that so? You have to go where your heart says go. Isn't that so? Isn't that so? Isn't that so? You have to go where your heart says go. Isn't that so? Isn't that so? Isn't that so? You have to go where your heart says go. Isn't that so? seed in the dirt, my friend, if you want the thing to grow. Isn't that so? Isn't that so? Go where your heart says go. Isn't that so? Isn't that so? Isn't that so? You have to go where your heart says go. Isn't that so?
Listen, Russ.
Yes, sir.
Number one, I'm so flattered that you would come and help us all do all this stuff. I know it's tight up here, but it's a fun environment, don't you think?
This is fantastic.
With drummers all around us. Yeah.
Thanks for coming. And thanks to Pitbull and everybody here who's been, and John's
Pitbull,
staff
yeah.
and everybody. It's been really great.
John Dewey and Scott Cameron, and I swear to God, Todd has been a tremendous help. Eric, everybody here has done such a great job. This is an oasis, if you ask me, and kind of an industrial park.
I know. Yep. We're used to those.
Yeah, and you're right. And you know what? It's like, you know, you come in here, you feel like music. You feel like this is a great place to be.
Absolutely.
And you know, the Pitbull Audio people have done so much to promote our crafts and what we do. And believe it or not, we were doing so little business here in the San Diego area, and I'm going, what the heck's going on? And it was like kind of a collapse of other things that happened around us, and I just feel that they filled that void. And I want to also thank Florentino and his crew.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you, Florentino. Absolutely.
He's put this out, and it's hopefully been seen by a few folks.
Thousands.
Thousands?
Live?
Yeah, all live right now. It's going on.
Wow.
It's wonderful.
You do a wonderful thing, and I know it's a thankless job in a lot of ways, but we thank you.
Yeah,
And
thank you so
Well,
much.
this is what we're all about. Musicians, we're all musicians here.
Yeah, yeah, right? Good enough.
Pitbull Audio is out there, and we're all about the
We love you for that.
Have you ever thought of putting the audio files up for the plies?
Yeah, we have, and we've tried that, and
Complicated.
wait till you read this thing, Pally. You know, it's like, that's gonna be
It's illuminating enough.
soft, medium, hard, you know, and every bloody, there's superlatives I could, you know, shout out here, but I won't, because there are ladies in the crowd. But we're gonna sit back. Where are we gonna go, John? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I want you to don't walk away without an autograph from this man, and right, because we were all here together. I mean, we shared this time together, and I will never forget it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.